Hi, everybody. We have about 15 people. I'm going to give everybody just a couple more minutes to join. I understand some people had a hard time getting the link. I think I have discovered the issue with that, and hopefully next time it won't be as difficult. So I think it looks like that we've got, we might as well just go ahead and get started. It's 2:01. I'm Caroline Wolf, for those of you who don't know, and welcome to the January 2021 Libraries Connecting Texas E-Rate webinar. It's so exciting that some of you we've been working with since 2018, and everybody's come a long way. All of you should pat yourselves on the back. You've worked hard. We're going to start with a summary of funding, and then Jenny's going to talk about next steps. Brandy and Kyle are going to talk about filing the Form 471, which is the most exciting part. And then Ashley's going to talk about deadline reminders. When you're added, you're going to be muted, but it's okay to ask to speak, and we can allow you to talk. And also, if you have any questions, there's a question and answer, and there's also a chat. So feel free to put questions in the question and answer or in the chat, and we'll answer them as we go along. And again, if you have anything to say, please speak up. So we, of course, most of the applications were funded by the end of last year, so we're not going to see a whole lot of difference in the funding yet. In a couple of months, we're going to start seeing applications funded for 2021. So we've got $1.4 million was funded to LCT libraries in 2020. 4.8 million in pre-discount funding to LCT libraries from 2018 to 2020. That's a lot of money. That's awesome. 2.5 million of 3.9 million in discounts has been dispersed to LCT libraries since 2018. That means that 3.9 million is what was requested. And so we're still waiting for some people to invoice for 2019 and for 2020. Of course, we've only halfway finished the 2020 funding year. So the one we're really worried about is 2019. 49 libraries have already got 90% of their 2019 funding. That's awesome. We still have a few more to go. We've got 10 that don't have an invoice mode set. And I think there are about 18 FRNs. I know a couple of libraries aren't going to use the money, and if that's one of you, we should know about it so that we can help you return the funds, and so we won't be badgering you to file a bear. But if you think that you haven't gotten your money or discounts for 2019, you probably haven't, and we're going to be reaching out to you to file a bear. So please respond. The deadline to file these invoices is February 25th. So it's really important to ask us or to get that bear filed. So Kathy wants to know if the funding request is a continuation of an FRN from a previous year. It sounds like you're filing your Form 471. So we'll get with you offline about that, but that's a good question. If you have a continuing, if you filed in a previous year and you have a multi-year contract, you can actually continue to use that contract and that same 470 as long as the contract is in effect. So it might be a continuation of a previous year if you have a multi-year contract. And Mammon still needs to file a 486 for one of their funding requests, and that their services are going to start for that funding request on February 1st. So we need to know if they're going to file that 486 or not. if they're going to move forward with those services. So um, that's it for the summary of LCT funding. And so Jenny.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to talk about our next steps. And for those of you that have attended our webinars in the past, this slide should look familiar to you. This is the E-rate timeline, and we've moved out of competitive bidding, and now we're into the Form 471 process. And it is time for everybody to get their 471s prepared and certified. So that's the green phase, the green and gray phase of this timeline. So we're going to talk about a couple of reminders on 470. Some of you still have 470s to file, and some of you still have 470s that are open right now that you're accepting bids on. So a couple of reminders about that. We've talked about the seasons of E-rate, and right now we're in the winter season. I crossed out this top bullet because it is past the time frame in which you can update your National School Lunch data or your EPIC profile data. So that window closed before the filing window opened, which was January 15th. So, but the next three bullets apply right now. So once your 470 bid close date is reached, you'll need to evaluate all your bid responses, retain all that bidding documentation and related correspondence with vendors and us, if you've talked to us through that process as well. So all of that has to be maintained. You'll want to be able to understand when you have, if you need board approval, when the city council meets, if it's required, and when you can take those, present those proposals and contracts to the board for approval. Ideally, you want to do that in January, but since January is just about over, you need to make sure you do that in February because the filing window closes in March. So you need to have those ready and your 471s filed in March. And the Form 471, that's the application that you ask for discounts on. It has to be filed in that 70-day window that opened January 15th. Unlike taxes, you can't request extensions. If there are extensions, it's done by USAC or the FCC rather than by us. So we just want to make sure everybody understands it has to be certified and submitted online in EPIC by that deadline. If you have not filed a Form 470, there are still 6 libraries that need a new Form 470. And if that is you, or if you're not sure, please contact one of us as soon as this call is over. So the 470 filing window is the window I was just talking about. It's a 70-day window. It opened on Friday, January 15th, and it will close Thursday, March 25th. And if you count your 28 days that's required for a 470 to be open, then the very last day to file a 470 is February 25th. We do not want you to wait until that date to file a 470 because it literally gives you no time to do anything. It gives you that one day to do your bid evaluations, select your winners, sign contracts, and if you have to go to the board, it's probably not going to happen that day. So please avoid at all costs waiting until February 25th. A couple of things that USAC has told us to do to prepare for the filing window is to install browser updates. Google Chrome is the recommended browser for their EPIC portal. So if you use Google Chrome, just be sure you're on the latest update for that browser. And then if you haven't logged in a while, I've worked with the library yesterday, in fact, to get the multi-factor authentication set up in the EPIC account because it's new as of last July. It's new. But if you haven't logged in a while, if you had a multi-year contract and you haven't had to get in, that's something that's new. You'll have to. It's a multi-step process that you have to do, and you have to set up before you can get in and certify your application. There have been glitches, so I would not wait. If you haven't been in a while, go ahead and log in to EPIC And that URL is portal.usac.org. I'll type that in, or if somebody can type that into the chat. That's the portal we're talking about, the E-Rate Productivity Center. Okay, and a couple of housekeeping items. You've probably seen some emails coming from several of us on our group here. We do need your help to make sure that all of the folks you see listed here have been added as a user in your Epic account, and that we all have full rights. This enables us to prepare applications on your behalf and send them to you to certify. If any of us are left off, we are not able to access your account as we need to. So please double check this stuff for us so that we can be sure that all of us have full rights access to your Epic account. And I'm going to hand it over to Brandy. She's going to talk about preparing the 471.
Thank you, Jenny. So the 471 is a very important process, part of this process, obviously, because we are asking for funding from USAC. So it's really important that you take the proper steps to make sure that you are successfully awarded that funding. So once you complete your bid evaluations and you have gotten approval maybe from your county or city board or just your library board, to award that contract to the winning vendor, you can prepare an award letter to send to the winning service provider. In a lot of cases, the award letter can serve as your contract once countersigned. You can use it not countersigned to file your 471, but you'll always want to have a countersigned, a fully executed copy of that to have in your files. You would send that to the winning service provider, and likely if it's a larger service provider, they will follow up wanting you to sign their contract. You'll want to request that they get that to you pretty quickly after you've awarded it, because sometimes it takes a little bit to get that back from them. And so if you are going to have a contract after you have awarded it, you will want to wait to get that before filing your 471, just so you have all of the information available to you in regard to your terms of service. If you have any voluntary extensions that are going to be available to you, all of that information is necessary to input into your Form 471. The date that you send your award letter, your signed award letter to your vendor, or the date that the contract is signed can be your contract award date. And so if you're simply going with an award letter as your contract, that will serve as your contract award date. If you have an award letter and then a contract subsequently after that, the date that the award letter was signed will still serve as your contract award date. You'll want to send any copies of signed agreements to the LCT team at the lct@eratecentral.com email address. Some things that you'll want to have handy when you are getting ready to file your Form 471 are a copy of your signed contract or award letter, whatever the agreement is with the service provider, which would include pricing for your internet access, as well as the terms and conditions of the contract. You'll also want to have a recent bill, and this will help you to determine if there's any other costs that should be included in your request to USAC, such as taxes and fees. So source documents to have, if you did not file a new Form 470, so you have a multi-year contract in place, you'll want to grab a copy of your most recent bill. This too will have your monthly recurring charges, any taxes and fees that are included on that. Those items are eligible to be requested from USAC. You'll also want to have a copy of your Form 471 handy from last year, because that's going to help you make sure that you're inputting the correct information, that it matches what you input last year. And of course, if you have any questions about that or you want us to review that information with you, we're happy to do that.
And I will add that we had a question earlier about continuation of a funding request from a previous year. If this, what Brandy just talked about, if you did not file a new 470, you have a multi-year contract for your internet, then you will do a continuation and use last year's funding request from your 471 from last year.
Thank you, Jenny. And I'm going to pass it on to Kyle.
Great, thank you, Brandy. I should also mention, just to tack on to any questions about new contracts, there is the contract award date that may be tied to the award letter. It will still be important to have the actual contract signed and ready before the services start, since that can sometimes present an issue down the line, even if the award letter is serving as the contract award date on the Form 471. So in regards to the come file with us sessions that we've had already for these two categories of these two types of Form 471s that you may be filing, for Form 471 filers who filed a Form 470 for funding year 2021 this year and signed a new contract. We have a tutorial video that sort of walks through the process of entering that contract information into Epic and then associating it with the Form 471 that you'll be filing. As Brandy mentioned, this would require you to have your new contract on hand and such, and we discussed that in greater detail in the video. Secondly, we have the video for Form 471 filers who have a multi-year contract in place from last year, or even from previously to that, if it's a 3-year contract or longer. And we have that video link there as well. So we should be able to provide those in the chat here in a moment. And then moving on to the next slide, we have action items that you'll need to address when the Form 471 is completed. So once you enter all the information that you have ready for the Form 471, you will click on Save and Share, and that will allow us with the LCT team to review the draft that you have created and make sure that there aren't any questions or sort of typos in there, and we can help you prepare it for you to certify. And we'll try to turn that around on a 24 to 48-hour basis. Given the mistakes that can be on the Form 471, we definitely want to help prevent those mistakes, because otherwise there may be PIA, program integrity assurance questions that come in about certain things that are entered on the Form 471 or typos, and that then requires a RAL correction. But moving on, I believe we are at, I'm going to pass it off to Ashley, who will go over deadline reminders.
Thank you, Kyle. Good afternoon, everybody. Just a couple of things to touch on. I know Caroline mentioned earlier on in the slides that we have 13 libraries that still need to either set their invoicing mode or, and what that means is if you're going to be filing for reimbursement of the billed entity applicant reimbursement form, which means you've paid your bills 100% and you need to collect the reimbursement, that needs to be done by February the 25th, 2021. And this is for the funding year that began July 1 of 2019 and ended June 30th of 2020. Out of those, if you, when you look at your invoices, if you've been receiving discounts, you just want to make sure that your service provider, you might want to send them a friendly reminder that the deadline's coming up and you've been receiving discounts on your bills, but no money's been dispersed on those. So those are the two options in order to get your invoice mode set. And if anybody has any questions, you probably would have received an email from the LCT group letting you know that you had some FRNs that had either a certain percentage been met to where you've only been invoiced 50% or 0%. So you could, if you have any questions about yours, though, you can definitely reach out to the LCT email and we can double check to see if you're one of those libraries.
Yeah, some of them, in fact, that there's some libraries that maybe for one funding request has had all of their disbursements, but had more than one funding request, and one of their funding requests didn't get invoiced. So it's really always a good idea to read your bill.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Caroline. And then again, we have the one library that still needs to file their Form 486 for 2020. And as y'all know, the deadline for your 486 is 120 days after the date of your FCDL or your service start date, whichever is later. And then the major deadlines that aren't listed here, Jenny did talk about, which is the last day to file a Form 470, which is February the 25th. And then your 471, which is March the 25th.
And I will say the ramifications of a late Form 486 are pretty dire. What they will do is they will adjust your service start date from when you start getting E-rate discounts. They'll adjust it back 120 days from the late filed 486. So you don't want to find yourself in that situation.
This particular one that's late, the services don't start till February 1st. So they have a little time, but it's still really close to February 1st. So
yes,
it's a good idea to get it done. So that's it for our slides. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so Ed, it's great that you're working on getting your evaluation matrix done. If you need some assistance, let us know. We're happy to help you get that finalized. If there's anything that you if you need any guidance about E-rate rules. When you're doing a bid evaluation in E-rate, of course, the cost of eligible services has to have the highest number of points, but you can use as many evaluation factors as you want. So if you're looking, Kathy wants to know how she can find a copy of her Form 470. You can actually find it in Epic. One quick way to find it is to go log into your EPC portal and click on the news. And you can either search for Form 470 or it should be in your news feed. Another way to find it is to go to your landing page, and there are ways to look at the forms. You have to actually toggle the year in which form you're looking for. If you would like for us to walk you through looking for something like that, we're happy to do that. So just let us know. Any other questions? Comments? I'm just so happy to see that people are filing their 471s and things are moving forward. If you have any other questions or you need help with something, especially if you aren't sure if you invoiced for 2019, please reach out to us. We're going to reach out to you, but it's good for you to also know what's going on. So if you don't know, let us know so we can figure it out. Or if you filed a form for a bear and you haven't gotten paid yet, we can help you check on that to see if maybe something happened. So the deadline is February 25th, and because the FCC has put into place strict deadlines, it's really important to get ahead of it if you haven't done that. So yes, a Form 471 has to be filed every single year. A 470 doesn't. If you file a Form 470 and you have a multi-year contract that results as from the Form 470, you you can use that 470 for the life of your contract. So just think of it that way. If you have a month-to-month agreement, you have to file a 470 every year. If you only have a 1-year contract, you still have to file a 470 every year. If you have a 3-year contract, you only have to file the 3rd year. Make sure that your contract covers all 12 months of the funding year that you're applying for. So if the funding year we're applying for now is 2021, that's for services that go from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. And so look at your contract, read it, and make sure that it expires on or after June 30th, 2022. And if you have an agreement that covers all of those months, then all you have to do is file your Form 471 using the Form 470 that you used to procure that contract. Anybody else needs to file a Form 470, and you don't have much time left. So if you're one of those people who does need to file a Form 470, do it as soon as possible. Otherwise, get that Form 471 filed and get it over with. And then all you have to do is wait for your funding.
Caroline, there's another question.
Okay, so I see Veronica.
Yes.
My 2-year contract with AT&T will need to start. Well, any new contract awarded to M3 will start July 1st. Do I need to contact AT&T or cancel? So if you are transitioning service provider, that's a really good question. Yes. You do need to let them know. If your contract is expiring, make sure you don't have an auto renew clause in your contract. Some service providers sneak that into agreements, and it's really horrible. They'll say, you have to let us know a year before you're going to cancel your contract. I don't think AT&T does that, but do read it and make sure there isn't an auto renew. It's not a bad idea to send them an email or send them something in writing that says you're going to cancel, that you're not going to renew your contract. And I would wait to cancel AT&T until you are sure EM3 is starting services. So you really need to make sure you communicate with your new service provider and your old service provider. So just make sure that you do, in writing, cancel the old services once the new services are in place. Sometimes you'll go month to month if you can't get it started by July 1st, but we're in January now, so hopefully there's no reason why AT&T shouldn't be able to get your services started by July 1st. You've got plenty of time to do it, but you do need to communicate with your service providers. Any other questions? Okay, well, if no one has any other questions, you can always reach us at lct@eratecentral.com. That goes to all of us. Any of us can answer your questions. You can also reach us at 516-801-7820, although I'm sure you have all of our individual extensions. That number goes to all of us. And we'll also have this recording of this on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. So you can go back to it later. So thank you so much. Yeah, the online resource link in the chat. So yes, we can do that. And we're also good. We can send you our slides as well if you'd like. I know Ed asked for our slides. So if we send you our slides, you'll have the link in the slides. And so then you don't have to copy it from our chat. Okay.
We hope to see you all on February 25th for our next call.
Good to see y'all. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.